Hello and welcome to Life Like You Mean It. Today we're going to be talking about setting boundaries. Now, just coming off of the Christmas holidays, this is usually a time when people have spent time with family and are starting to reevaluate some things, right? Sometimes we have some family members that, perhaps if we were choosing who was in our lives, we would not choose them. Right? That's the nice way of saying it, right? That they would just not be somebody that we would choose to spend our time with, be friends with, share energy with. And because they're family, sometimes we feel like, well, we've got no choice, right? We need to. This is the same sort of idea as having a work colleague that you really literally do not have a choice. You work at that establishment, you work in that department, and so does this other person. It's outside of your control whether or not they work there. And it's somebody that you just really do not get on with, or you just feel very drained after being around. Now, I've got lots of different videos that talk about raising your energy vibration as well as protecting your energy. And those would be great ones to go back over and have a look at if you haven't watched already. So, for the purpose of this video, we're not really focusing on whether or not it is time to set boundaries or even how to set the boundaries. But more importantly, we're focusing on you, right? Are you ready to set the boundary? And really, that is a question that is more geared towards how much do you actually love, care, respect, and accept yourself? Because when you are willing to set a boundary, when you recognize that you are not enjoying the interaction the way that it is going on at the present time, and you feel the need to set a boundary, whatever that boundary may be, most people that choose to not set the boundary is because they don't want to overturn the apple cart. They don't want to upset the other person. They don't want to cause conflict. And see, all of these things are about what the other people think, what they need, what they want, how they will react, rather than focusing on the whole reason why you need to set the boundary. You, when you love yourself, accept and respect yourself enough, then when you notice that you are being pulled in too many directions, or you are not enjoying the time that you are spending with somebody, or any number of different things that could give you cause to set a boundary, then when you are loving, accepting, and respecting yourself, it's pretty easy for you to sit back and say, all right, I deserve better than this. This is not going to continue the way that it is. So I'm going to sit down now and figure out, first of all, what is it that I need going forward if I'm going to continue this interaction or this relationship or whatever it is. If I'm going to continue, I need certain things to change. What are those things? What is it that you are unhappy with? And while we don't want to ever focus on the things that you don't want, in this case, it's really helpful to actually think about what's not working so that you can then use that to determine what it is that you do want. Once you've figured out what it is that you do want, then it's time to figure out how to express that desire, that need to that other person or people that are involved in setting this boundary. So, is it that you need the conversation to steer in a certain direction? Is it that you need to be asked if it's okay to proceed talking about a certain subject? Whatever it is, okay, there's literally so many different ways to set boundaries and so many reasons to need to set a boundary. We could be here all day if we were going to try to mention all of them. But you know what I mean, right? You've all been in a situation where setting some sort of boundary was really necessary. And oftentimes, if you didn't set the boundary, then that relationship ended, right? Whether it was a romantic relationship or a friendship, because you would have reached a peak. You would have reached a pinnacle point, and in the avoidance of setting the boundary, the other person had no idea that a boundary needed to be in place. They continued on with the relationship as it had been, assuming that everything was fine and this is the way that you interact. And then you would have got to a peak, a point where you cannot go any further. And that's where you would have ended the relationship, again, whether friendship or romantic relationship, right? We've all been there in some sort of regard. For some people, this is the exact reason why they leave their employer, right? They actually go to another company rather than address the boundary that perhaps needs to be put in place. It's really important for you to first identify what is not working for you so that you can then get clear on what it is that you do want. And then you take the steps that work for you to figure out, well, what is it that you think that you need, that you require to happen here in order to get what you want? And the very last step, I would say, is of course you need to communicate this in a respectful manner to the other person or people that are involved. And yes, of course, there's a risk that they may react in a less than acceptable way. And just remember that that is a them problem, not a you problem. It's not a reflection of you. It is 100% them and how they are perceiving and reacting to this particular circumstance. But as long as you are respectfully addressing this with them, this could be an open conversation that you have with them. So, what I mean by that is that you might have a generalized idea of what you think you need to change in order for this to continue to go forward and for you to not feel like you're being used or manipulated or stretched or, pulled at your wits' end or whatever it is that's going on. Um, you could have an actual conversation with them where you brainstorm how to put a boundary in place where you perhaps what's not working, you know how you would like it to be, but you don't actually know how to get there. And so you involve that person or people in this process so that they feel like they are an active contributor where you raise your concerns, you explain this isn't what I want, this is what I want instead. Is that something that you also want? First of all. And second of all, if they do, then can you work with me? Can we figure out how to make this happen? What do you think we need to do? Oftentimes, when people are brought into the mix, instead of just being told what they need to do from now on, and instead be brought in and invited to contribute in this way, where they are, in essence, providing part of the solution to the problem that they have potentially created themselves, they feel rather than being rejected or feeling in that negative way, they feel like they are part of the solution. They can feel that you obviously want this relationship to continue, for example, and that you are looking for ways to improve it, and you want them to be part of that. Right. So instead of it looking like they are limited in what they can talk about or say or do, or when they can contact you or any of those things, they are part of the solution in brainstorming how we can have a better relationship, for example. I hope that that helps and makes sense. I would love to hear your thoughts on this in the comments. Please go ahead and share if you are feeling, especially after the holidays, like you definitely need to set some boundaries, or if you've got some questions on to how to do it, how to address a very particular situation. I would love to hear all about it. Bless.